Welcome to the Heartlight Sessions, a podcast about light working your way through dark times. I'm Jenee Halstead. I'm a singer-songwriter, holistic vocal coach, intuitive guide, and plant medicine facilitator. I'm also a survivor of childhood abuse, autoimmune issues, and my 30s. I'm on a lifelong healing journey, and along the way, I want to share the ideas and teachings that rock my world. Every week on Heartlight Sessions, I call on artists, healers, and thinkers to explore what's helped them live and thrive from a heart-centered place. Because the heart, it's where the best things happen. If you've ever wondered how to unlock your biggest breakthroughs or how to come back from that stuff that tried to kill you, you know the stuff I'm talking about, the stuff that's supposed to make you stronger. Or if you've ever wondered how to just do you straight from the heart, you're in the right place. So join me, won't you? Let's turn on that heart light. Turning on my heart light. 1,000 volts of sunshine. Hello.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have Emily Baldwin on the podcast today. She is a somatic experiencing practitioner. She has a community and a platform called Pachasia. She's a transformational wellness guide, a little bit of astrology nerd, a little bit of woo-woo, some shamanic practices. It's like the perfect package of everything that I love and the type of individuals that I like to talk to. And we are just getting to know each other. We know each other through like a circle of friends, and we're already kind of nonstop in our in our flow. So I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I wanted to talk a little bit about first just your path to healing and really like what brought you into this world. I'm always very curious about that with people and kind of where you went first. What was your first stop on like your journey?
So my body was absolutely shutting down, and that was the start of this whole process. I was working in corporate at a consulting firm, one of the big four. And of course, if my work is in healing, and I don't know if we mentioned somatic experiencing, but I'm also an
Yeah.
SEP.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if that's my path, of course, it was a complete mismatch to be, working with a bunch of consultants. And I was there for 4 years, and I was so stressed out that I know now my body was shutting down and going through high cortisol symptoms.
Yeah.
So, big swollen face, was carrying more weight than I normally do. My hair was thinning. I had heart palpitations, panic attacks 2 to 3 times a week, migraines 2 to 3 times a week. And yeah, just my whole body was shutting down. Even my parents were
Wow.
saying, Emily, we know that you have a good steady job and income and benefits, but it's not worth your health.
Mm.
And truthfully, my journey in the work started with meeting a woman on a subway platform. And for anybody who lives in New York, we don't make friends down there.
Right.
So I was in full fuck off mode. Oh, sorry. Can we cuss on this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love me some explicits.
Okay. So I was in full fuck off mode, earbuds, sunglasses on the subway platform. And this woman just gets my attention, and she is obviously not from New York. And I do my civic duty, and can I help you? And she wants to make sure that she's going into the city the right direction. So I was like, yeah, you are. Where are you getting off? We were getting off at the same stop. So I said, whenever I get off, you'll get off. And then I know now that it was a breadcrumb from the universe.
Totally.
But all it presented as was like a little open curiosity. So I say that because I have a feeling that someone is going to be listening to this.
Yep.
And the next time you feel that curiosity, follow it. It has led me
Totally.
to really, really good things. So that led me to this rebirth and renewal retreat in the foothills of Vermont. And then someone there introduced me to three different guides in shamanic work. And so then I started along, the transformational wellness path and meditation retreats. And from there, someone that I was training with knew an SEP, and he
Mm-hmm.
came to do a workshop with us. And I'm always, whenever we do workshops, I like to be the guinea pig. And I like to kind of, with this healing work, I just jumped in
Mm.
both feet into the
Mm.
deep end. Within 3 months, I was training to do work.
Wow.
And my husband is also my co-facilitator. He didn't want to do it. We were so codependent and enmeshed at the beginning. He didn't want to do it just because I was.
Yeah.
So he took his time and kind of waded in through the kiddie pool, but that was not my MO. Like
Mm.
both feet deep end, 3 months in. And so yeah, with SEP, I jumped in with that workshop, loved it. My whole
Mm.
body reacted to it. My whole
Mm.
nervous system was just like, yes, this
Mm.
actually works. And so then I started training. It was COVID, so a normal 3-year training took 4 years.
Mm.
But I've been in the work for about 8 years now and been working directly with clients for 4.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's been a crazy, amazing, incredibly healing ride so far. And, with some apprenticeships, they take like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So while I feel like I've had amazing, amazing teachers, amazing training on multiple different platforms, many different fronts, and I always feel like I'm continuously learning and continuously growing. This is a forever PhD.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, give a healing, get a healing is kind of is a really
Yeah,
good
right?
saying in our
Yeah.
work. Um, I still also consider myself a baby in this,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm 8 years into my 10-year, apprenticeship
Wow. Yeah. So, in case anyone doesn't know, SCP is Somatic Experiencing
practitioner.
Practitioner, and that's Dr. Peter Levine's work.
He, I think he started, I want to say in the 60s or 70s, and drew from all these different methodologies, including Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory. He did a deep dive on the nervous system, and it was all based off of the question: animals in the wild don't get PTSD,
Right.
but animals in captivity and humans do, even though
Mm.
animals in the wild have so many more daily instances of being under mortal threat. So what's the
Right. Mm.
And so he did this deep dive on the nervous system and then was able to understand, oh, animals in the wild are able to run it off. They're
Mm.
able to get away from their attacker. They're able to fight off their attacker. And what that does is it releases a tremendous amount of built up activation in our bodies. So they're
Mm.
able to complete the trauma cycle on a daily basis,
Got
shake
it.
it off,
Got
get the
it.
activation out of their bodies. But when we're at home, and it may be your parent that is the stressor, or your
Yes.
sibling, or there may be abuse in the house or trauma in the house. You can't escape it. And so you're continuously getting revved up and getting activated, which is just how our body evolved.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're not able to spend the energy. And so it gets stuck in the tissues of your body. And
Mm.
that's when we get, things all the way up to PTSD, and it can affect our health. And so his work works directly with the nervous system to re-entrain it into its natural rhythms. SEPs are there as the guidepost for sessions to help the body do what it naturally does, which is be in a healing state, be in a healed state, come back to equilibrium. And yeah, his work has been honestly one of the most efficient and quickest ways to release stuck trauma and activation from the body and to heal the body that I've been trained in, or that I've, just discovered along the way and dabbled in and, gotten curious about. Which is interesting to say that it's the quickest and one of the most quick and efficient because you're working on the body level. So everything has to slow down.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, the fastest way to get there is to slow down. And even with the slowdown, it's still way more efficient in my opinion, than a lot of the other methodologies that I've been curious about along the way.
Wow. I'm curious like how quickly you saw for yourself this recovery like after you left corporate.
So with my personal healing journey, I always tell people that healing is like this:
Yep.
expansion, contraction,
Yep.
expansion, contraction. That is the rhythm of life and healing on our planet. And, it's a heartbeat, it's our lungs, it's
Mm,
the seasons of the year.
mm-hmm.
So, and my healing has been like this.
Yeah.
I will say that I probably, it took about 3 to 6 months for me to go, holy shit, this works. And I am in such a better place. And like I could really see the difference in that used to be the case. It's not anymore. Health wise, when I jumped into the work, again, I was having 3 to 5 panic attacks a week, 3 to 5
Mm-hmm.
migraines a week. My
Oh.
hair was thinning.
Oh.
Um, it was like a faucet got shut off when I quit the corporate and moved into training work.
Mm,
So I basically just kind of stopped having the migraines, or migraines went from 3 to 5 a week to 3 to 5 a year.
mm,
And then panic attacks. I mean, I probably have had, I don't know, a handful in the last 8 years.
mm.
So, I mean, just that, like, there
Amazing.
were some aspects of it that were just night and day.
Yeah.
When I no longer had that day to day, all the time, drowning in cortisol and adrenaline
Yep.
environment, my body just naturally came to a more healed state pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Um, and then, just with this work and the SE work, yeah, like you really can tell a difference in this work in about 3 to 6 months.
Mm,
Now, you're also dealing with things that took, patterns, coping mechanisms, strategies, um, ways that our bodies contorted into these unnatural shapes in order to survive and get through and react to whatever happened. And it's really important to know that, if it took decades to
mm-hmm.
form
Yep.
and then get reinforced and reinforced and reinforced,
Yep.
it's not going to be a months long process. I mean, it could be, but you really want to give your body just as much time and space as it needs. So, yes, I could see a huge difference in 3 to 6 months 8 years ago. And I've been in this process for the last 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still discovering new layers. I'm
Totally.
still in this and will be for the rest of my life. And
Absolutely.
things that took decades to create and reinforce can sometimes take years to painstakingly and lovingly and gently and patiently untangle. So I think it's also really important for anyone who's listening to know, like, be patient. Um,
Absolutely.
Trauma happens too much, too soon, too fast. So healing needs to happen, no pressure,
Yep.
all the time in the world, with loving acceptance and just so much kindness, compassion, and patience.
Yeah, this is so important. I think this is a message that, so many people don't receive. And it's like vital to healing because people give up. It's a long game.
It is.
And I know for myself, like, I was on my path just of initial healing, kind of the big chunk for 15 years. And there was like finally a moment where I knew I was at the end of the tunnel. It was only the end of a tunnel. The only way out is through, and it doesn't, and
Yes.
it's not a race.
Yes.
And it does get better. I think that's the
Yes.
hardest thing is it gets harder and it gets worse before it gets better,
Definitely true.
and that, I mean, that's where people can just get stopped and stuck.
Yeah. So that is the contraction part of this
Yeah.
process. And one of the things I try and totally normalize, and for anyone who's listening, like, please hear us. We've been through our own versions of this. And each time I go back into the contraction, it's gnarly, it's not fun, it's not comfortable, but girl, I learned so much more in this part than I
Yep.
do in this. We get
Totally.
so much more out of the gnarly bits, the dark parts, the uncomfortable parts. We learn so much more. We purge so much more. We integrate so much more in
Yeah.
those contractions. And they are just as much a part of the healing process as this?
Yep.
And I totally agree with you about one of the things I see with clients is, again, we come from this patriarchal, everybody's nervous systems are jacked, especially, coming from New York. Love New York, but every time we go back, I
Mm-hmm.
just look around and I'm like, everyone's
Wow.
nervous system is jacked.
Totally.
Everyone's baseline is up in fight flight.
Yeah.
And that is not how we evolved. We
Mm-mm.
evolved to have our baseline down in ventral and
Mm-hmm.
and social, open, curious, that place where we
Yeah.
actually can hear the messages our body is giving us and those little
Mm-hmm.
intuitive hits, and our curiosity can lead us good places
Mm.
because we feel safe enough to be open and curious and social. Um, but I am finding that a lot of people with the do it now, fast is better, do like just go, 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 breakneck pace of our culture, and the the way that Western medicine has created a pharmaceutical based model where it's, if you have this, take a pill for it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of those, it's this quick, and we'll
Yep.
just change this, and we'll fix you, and it's absolutely the opposite of that.
Yep.
It's, you're perfect as you are. You don't need fixing. It's, yeah, we're working on stuff. We're all working on stuff. We're going to be working on stuff for the rest of our lives.
Yep.
And um and slow and steady wins the race. We want to be the tortoise here because our bodies, honestly, our bodies could not handle the rate of change that our minds want to go.
Yeah.
If my clients, so many clients will come in and they'll be dealing with a particular thing, and they'll have this idea of like when they want this done. And I have to explain to them it's just not
Sorry.
how healing works.
Mm-mm.
And truthfully, if you went as quickly as you want to, your body would break down.
Yeah.
You physically, the cells in your body, the molecules that hold you together could not handle the rate of change that your mind thinks is appropriate.
Yeah.
And so it's really important, if you're on this healing path, if you're starting this healing path, um, tortoise, not the hare,
Mm.
and one step at a time. And it's not linear. It's this. So it is not, oh, we just keep getting better and better and better.
Mm-hmm.
No, no, no. Like sometimes there's the contraction after the big expansion, and that's just as
Yeah.
much a part of it.
Yeah. It's to me like I'm so passionate about I'm always like the hill that I will die on is being a representative for the body,
Yes.
because the body is, I think, deeply embedded into Pachamama and
Yes.
into the feminine, you know, into the feminine aspect on
Yes.
our planet, that polarity, and it's the subconscious language. And
Yes.
we live in a world that is, wants to dominate and control and know when things are going to be done and give me a timeline, blah, 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 blah. And
Yes.
unfortunately, as you experienced in, working in your corporate job, is like you have to bring the body with you. You have to start to understand and learn this language if you really want to have a quality life.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. No, like as you're speaking, my whole body is just crying out in total resonance. Um, and truthfully, a lot of my work lately has been around this, coming from old model patriarchy, hierarchy, top down, um, rushing things past, going from the mind, all masculine. The body, I feel, is that, yeah, that more feminine, connected to Mother Earth. We need
Mm.
to be loving and respecting our mother more than we are. She is very sick right now. And the way that we approach our own healing, the parts of us that come up that we had to abandon along the way in order to be connected with our family members, our caregivers, our cultures, our peer groups. It's not about getting rid of anything, and it's not about dominating anything and power
Yep.
over. That is
Yep.
the old model.
Yep.
The way to healing is, how can we bring all parts into the whole? How can we take care of the whole? How can we be more whole? And that includes our light and our darkness, the things that we like about ourselves and the things that we don't. The things that are in the light of our awareness, and then the shadow of our subconscious, which is most of us,
Yep.
99% of us.
Yep.
And I think collectively we're all at different parts of this path and this lesson, but it is so important for us collectively and individually to start to really unlearn that. All right, come on, dominator, like you have to go at my pace, or the mind is telling the body you have to heal at my pace.
Mm-hmm.
Or disregarding the feminine, disrespecting the body. How many people do we know that are just like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead?
Yeah. That's
You know,
crazy.
how many of us, and this is something I used to do in corporate, just body urges, like having to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, oh, but I have one more email and I got to do this and that. And then you'd like kind of wake up out of your disassociated state 5 hours later, and you
Mm.
never went to the bathroom. How often do we do that,
Mm.
disregarding, big and small, these parts of and functions of our body? And this is where it all is. Trauma lives here. The
Mm.
reason why we are finding that solely mind-based therapies like psychotherapy,
Mm-hmm.
and I say this knowing a couple of really great therapists out there that
Yep.
bring along the body and do really beautiful work.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of, psychotherapy and psychiatry kind of cuts you off at the neck and treats
Yep.
you from here up. But trauma is a body thing. And so we're
Yes.
we're seeing the limitations of trying to treat a body thing through the mind. Um, so yeah, I think this healing process is a lot of unlearning things that we have learned in our families and our cultures, and this dominator model. It's just getting unlearned and dismantled right now. And thank God, it's making us sick.
Totally. Yeah, it's very interesting too because, when you're in therapy and you're rehashing your
Yep.
traumas with your therapist, your body actually doesn't know the difference
Yep.
between the time that it happened and what you're retelling. So you're
Yep.
re-traumatizing yourself
Yep.
every single time that you rehash that story,
I
you
am
know?
so glad that you brought that up. It's something I've been noticing in my sessions, especially lately. So one of the journeys that we have to bring clients along is that it's be patient with your body, and it's going to take longer than you want it to. So another thing that I'm noticing, all right, it's really important for all of your clients to know that there is kind of this magnetization, this pull to the trauma, whatever the trauma is. It might be an event. It also could be little t trauma of just not being seen, not being heard. Um, you know, both of those holes in the trauma landscape have a magnetization. In SE we call it the trauma vortex, and there's a pull to the center of the vortex.
Mm,
So many of my clients want to come in and they want to talk about it,
mm,
and there's this urgency of, I have to tell you, and part of my job is actually to hit the pause button.
Mm-hmm.
First off, your body is telling me the story. Um,
Yeah.
Second, if I let you just go off into the story, truthfully, you're just going to jump right into the middle of the trauma vortex, disassociate. We're going to spend the entire rest of the session, possibly the next week,
Mm.
getting you back out of freeze.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, really, it's funny because I've had a couple of sessions with clients where, like, they don't take to SE or they feel like it's, they want to talk about it. And I absolutely get that. Sometimes we need our story to be heard, and there is a part of that. And there's a way to titrate it. And an SE practitioner is there to help kind of put the pauses in. Literally, we ask your permission to interrupt for this reason.
Yeah.
But it's so that we don't go 0 to 60 on the runaway trauma train and just go up into disassociation.
Yeah.
But people have, and it's a natural, this is how our bodies are wired. Trauma has a pull to it.
Mm.
But for anyone listening, it's not always healing to just tell the story full stop and to let your body um, go with that runaway train and that pull towards the story and talking about it. Talking about it, like you said, absolutely can re traumatize you. And if you take pauses, again, trauma happens too much, too soon, too fast. So if you take pauses and, oh, we're going to pause here and let's just deal with whatever activation the body has, in telling of the story. Like you said, the body has no idea. We go back into a body state. We revert back to that body memory of whatever was happening at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And can we pause? And can we just be with this? And can we just take a little baby bite and sit with the discomfort and the activation enough and map it out in the body in a safe way? And maybe, be with the edges of it instead of the whole thing until you get a release, the tingles, the heat, the sweat, the yawn, it's the body wants to purge a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And can we be with it and just take little baby bites out over time? So instead of saying it in, 2 minutes, you might take 2 or 3 sessions on it, maybe
Mm-hmm.
more.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time you're done with it, instead of re-traumatizing yourself, you will have actually metabolized the stuck energy in your body, and you'll actually not be looping on the trauma in your body anymore.
Yes.
So I'm so glad you brought that up because it's something I've noticed in client sessions. And I think that it's really important for anyone going through their healing journey to understand.
Yeah. And I think what happens is there's this over time. I know for me, when I started to heal from my own trauma, and was just living in the neck up, like we do, and disassociating left and right,
Same here.
when I started to, and I also went on an antidepressant that for my anxiety attacks. So, and was like very quickly was like, oh my God, I don't want to be on this thing, because
Totally.
I did actually like feeling, even though they
Yeah.
were in these extremes, I did
Yeah.
like feeling. So I
Yeah.
went off and I had a backlog of anxiety. So the thing that I
That.
went on to make it go away, I had now way worse tidal waves of anxiety.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
something inside of me knew this time that, like, okay, I'm going to have to dive into the waves. I'm going to have to find a way to deal with this overwhelm. And you talked a little bit. I saw one of your Instagram posts on anxiety, and I thought it was really powerful. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that because I thought the connection there was like, oh, this is it. But um, when you're initially kind of de-thawing or working, within the body, that's when it's like, again, can feel so uncomfortable and
Yes.
extreme,
Yes.
but it's all about feeling. It's
Yes.
going into the feeling, into the body and moving it.
I'm sitting here. I have these moments where I'm like, be cool, Baldwin, be cool, because I'm just so excited and I love talking about this. And okay, anxiety is a natural byproduct of living in our culture the way that it is set up right now. So I want to normalize all of your listeners that are battling and dancing with anxiety. Our culture is backwards. It's
Mm-hmm.
sick. It's not based off of what being an actual human, of being whole with all of our parts and all of our emotions. We are taught some backwards things that create tension and stuck flight. It's usually
Mm-hmm.
flight. There's some
Yeah.
fight in there too, but stuck flight in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to normalize it first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Quick thing on meds. One, around depression and chemical imbalance, straight up chemical imbalance. Honestly, there are a couple of clients that I've worked with or people that I know that actually have the actual chemical imbalance,
Mm-hmm.
and they absolutely need those meds. Their life is better with those meds. Um, it's absolutely the right,
Yeah.
protocol and course of treatment. The vast majority, I don't think it's the right thing for them. And here's why. What the SSRIs, especially if you're talking about like the anti-anxiety meds, what they do is they cut you off from the messages that are happening in your body.
Yep.
Your body, your nervous system has evolved for thousands and thousands of years to give you messages of danger and safety.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety is basically when we're stuck with the gear in danger on overdrive all the time. Trauma is a body thing. So it's usually, a set of things that happened that we weren't able to then complete the trauma cycle, like we talked about with animals. Same thing with
Mm-hmm.
humans.
Yep.
We can't run it off because we have to go to our room instead of being able to run it off and run away from a lion in the African savannah.
Mm-hmm.
So over time, that gets stuck in the tissues of our bodies. What an anti-anxiety med does is it numbs you. It cuts you off from the message that your body is screaming at you, saying danger, danger, danger. When we don't feel something, it gets stuck in the tissues of our bodies. The way to release something from the tissue of your body, release the energy of it, release the
Mm-hmm.
activation of it. The trauma is kind of how we contort ourselves into shapes that are unnatural
Mm.
afterwards.
Mm.
Trauma's not the event; it's how we react to the event,
Yes.
the stories that we make true of it.
Yes.
Um, so with anxiety meds, honestly, the worst withdrawal process that I have ever witnessed a friend or client, colleague, anyone go through was a woman with severe anxiety who had been on benzos for about 20 years.
Whoa.
And it took her painstakingly. I mean, we're talking like shaving parts of a pill off,
Yeah.
little by little, titrating down for 2 fucking years of hell.
Wow. Wow.
So ever since I witnessed that, I always encourage people, work with an SEP, do the
Yeah.
harder, longer work of
Slower.
slower work of really like in a guided way, like get yourself somebody who is trained
Mm-hmm.
and educated on how to help you process this rather than going the easy route, that patriarchal, quick, you know, faster is better, more is better, backwards messaging that we get in our culture. Go the slower route
Yeah.
because what you're doing is you're just trapping the anxiety in your body, which is what you experienced.
Yep.
And so getting off of those, what you're going to do is as soon as you titrate the anti-anxiety med down, all of that stuff that you didn't want to feel, the panic
Mm-hmm.
attacks, the
Mm-hmm.
anxiety attacks, the, just generalized anxiety, the not being able to sleep, the stress, what that does is it takes the lid off of it so then it can come out.
Yeah.
So if you are going through this process, know that you're not going crazy, and it doesn't mean that you should go back on the benzos and you should up your dose. It means that you should go to a practitioner that you trust, that is trained, properly trained on how to work with this. And over time, you can purge all of this.
Mm-hmm.
The only way out is through. The way that our bodies purge is by feeling it. And remember that it goes out the way it came in. So if it came in as anxiety, you're going to sit there on a random Monday afternoon and it's going to come out and there's no stressor that happened, no stimulus that happened. And you don't know why. You think you're going crazy because you're just all of a sudden panicky.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you're going crazy, baby. It's because 2 years ago you had a panic attack that you numbed.
Yeah.
And that the energy of that literally gets stuck in the muscles and the fascia and the nerves in our bodies. And so it's going to come out the way it came in. Anxiety, it's interesting. The more I go into it, and I'm a big Gabor Mate fan.
Yeah.
So Gabor Mate, for those of your listeners who don't know, is a brilliant doctor that is in this work and has written books on everything from addiction that I believe in his model rather than, the AA model.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally honor the AA model and how many people it helps. Um, he's written books on ADD and oh my God, as somebody who was diagnosed as ADHD, non-hyperactive type in 8th grade, totally agree with him. He wrote a book called When the Body Says No.
Mm-hmm.
And it is this brilliant way of looking at the body that I mean, in our transformational wellness work, if you're training in it, in our lineage, in our little subsect of the lineage with our teacher, that was one of the first 3 books that you read when you're training.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a whole chapter on the HPA axis, your hypothalamus to your pituitary to your adrenals, little beanie caps on the tops of your
Mm-hmm.
kidneys. Your adrenals are the things that release adrenaline and cortisol. So we evolved to release adrenaline and cortisol. And it's when it gets stuck in the on position and we're kind of drowning in cortisol all the time that it literally can create health issues.
Yep.
Our body was not meant to be stuck in on all the time. So we're going to pause for all the listeners that might be activated by talking about this and remind everybody that your body is a self-healing machine.
Mm.
Wants to be in equilibrium. It wants to be in a healed state. And I know plenty of people personally, and I have heard of many stories about people finding healing by unlearning these emotional and behavioral things that, led to the dis-ease in the first place. So wanted to plant that seed.
Mm.
Um, we we take anxiety as just this normal thing in our culture, but it's not. It is the body telling you something's up. It's the body telling you there's danger. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be danger from your life right now. You could have a wonderful family life and a job that you love and a this and that. But there's enough that's similar energetically to when the anxiety first got in your body when you were a kid, probably.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a car accident that your body hasn't fully metabolized and you weren't
Yes.
able to complete the trauma cycle around it.
Yep.
So that's why you want to work with a practitioner who can help you release the energy and the activation from your tissues. And it's really important because, it can lead to a number of, we have incidences of cancer, uh, autoimmune diseases skyrocketing right
Through the
now. And a
roof.
lot
Through
of
the
that
roof.
comes from being stuck in the on flight position. And so it's part of the reason why I'm passionate about this and why it's important to not normalize it away and to not address it because, it does affect your health. Now, again, just saying to all of the people with super powerful minds, it is absolutely possible to work with this and to reclaim that relationship with your body and to help your body get into its equilibrium and into its natural rhythms and to feel safe in your body again. And I've seen so many people, cure their own anxiety and depression. I would say that I still have some anxious, again, my healing process has been this, and
Mhm.
sometimes in the contraction, I will go back to that anxious place, but I used to live there.
Right.
These are now like little visits.
Exactly.
And they're short visits. And
Yep.
I am so much more resourced. Each time I go back to those uncomfortable places, I've got myself. I have mapped out my body. I'm so much more in my body. I'm so much more connected to my body. When we go into body work, your listeners might have heard that we are just as infinite inside as we go in as the universe is
Hmm.
outside. And I used to think that was total bullshit. But honestly, in the last 8 years, oh my God, it is absolutely true. I am completely an infinite universe inside, and each and every person is as well. And so if we were astronauts on the International Space Station and, doing trauma work or going into a meditation retreat or, any SE work, anytime you're doing the inner work, it's like going on a spacewalk
Yeah.
on the space station. So what we do is we get a tether, and any astronaut is going to have probably multiple tethers to the International Space Station if they're out in space working on something on the station. They're going to have a suit that is containment to keep them
Mm.
safe
Mm.
and to keep them, give them the necessary things for life, oxygen being one of them. And so you want someone who's trained and can help you have those tethers, the resources, the orienting, the titration, the
Mm.
containment of the SE session so that we're not George Clooney in Gravity, just floating away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so, there are practitioners that are skilled at going out and finding you. If you were ever the George Clooney and you're
Yeah.
out lost in space, they can go and find you and bring you back.
Yep.
And so, yeah, like, just encouraging any listeners to know that first, you're not alone. It
Yeah.
is a natural thing to have anxiety in reaction to our backwards ass culture. And, and it's worth, the step-by-step slow healing process. I think, I'm so glad that you mentioned it because I just think it's so important and it's so ubiquitous. We just consider anxiety to be a normal part of our society, but normalizing it doesn't mean that it's good for our health.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, you know, the key really is to the stabilization,
Yeah.
of the self, getting your getting the equilibrium,
Yeah.
and then you can go get suited up and go inside and go into go to the International Space Station and go
Yes.
exploring.
Yes.
Once you've stabilized, it's like, then we can start to do the shadow work,
Yes.
then, because it's like, okay, I'm, if you start to do the shadow work, or you start to do, you start to, and
You
a
can
lot of people do,
re-traumatize
they go
yourself.
in and they're looking at their past and they're already like so dysregulated. And then it's just like, oh, I mean,
Yeah.
that is a recipe for just like a mental break,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. So that is how we start pretty much every SE session. And most of the, meditation and energy healing retreats that we facilitate. The first part is the tethers. It's the resources. We'll have you orient to the room. There's something, and this is actually a tool that you can use anytime. So for anybody who's listening, literally, there's something about being a mammal and having a mammal's nervous system that if we look around our environment, especially if we're not Well, if we're out in nature, that can be really nice and can be really resourcing. But if you just look around, and a lot of people will do the, okay, I'm done. No, no, no. Again, we're going with the body, so it's slow. So take like at least 60 seconds, a minute or two, and just slowly look around your room, look around your environment, and look for things that make you feel safe. So you're literally orienting to safety. That's something that you can do and just practice it, sometime today, sometime in the next couple of days, or even as we're talking for the rest of, this podcast. Like, feel free to just look around and let your eyes wander where they want to go. It settles the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can connect with something outside of you that makes you feel safe, an object, for me, it's plants. My
Yeah.
husband has a green thumb, and I'm so grateful. I am always surrounded by plants. And so I have all of these beautiful resources and friends that can help in whatever work I'm doing. And then spend time with it. Again, they'll look at it and then look back at me and be like, okay, I did it. It's like, no, no, no. Like, actually spend time with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
The orienting and the resourcing. So resourcing outside of you, finding an object outside of you, and then going inside your body. And just in this moment, as your listeners are listening to this, can you find a part of your body that feels safe, present? Maybe let yourself hang out there for the rest of our time. Another thing that you can do, orienting and resourcing anytime, you can always come back to your ground. So that's
Mm.
another resource, another tether to the space station.
Mm-hmm.
So in this moment, can you feel into your body, and can you notice the parts of your body that are in contact with the surface underneath you and behind you? And just let yourself be held. Can you kind of let yourself sink into the surface a little bit more? Feeling it kind of come up from the ground and support you.
Mm.
There's one resource that's always there. Even if you're in a plane, there's the seat and the floor. The ground is always there. So, especially for my anxiety peeps, if you are feeling anxious, come back to your ground. Sometimes you might need to move and kind of burn off a little bit of the energy,
Mm-hmm.
but notice the difference also. I don't know why I'm saying this, but there evidently this is for a couple of your listeners. Um, Notice the difference between embodied movement and disconnected, disassociated movement.
Mm.
I've got a client right now who's working through something like this, and he's a runner.
Mm.
And he runs miles and miles and miles every day, but it's completely disassociated. So he's not actually burning off the flight in his body.
Mm.
And so,
Interesting.
yeah, like as you were saying, like you have to feel it, you have to be with it in order to release it. Um, so yeah, just those are three
Mm.
easy little tethers, easy tools that your listeners can take away from this that can help bring them back to the present moment, find safety, be those tethers to the International Space Station if you're, in a panicky situation or really stressed or something.
Amazing. Any last final recommendations, words of insight before we close out?
Many. Definitely, if you can do the sciencey nerd out for the first quarter of the book, read When the Body Says No.
Yeah.
It is brilliant. Any books by Peter Levine,
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend, because what they're going to do is help you. It's going to help your mind have something to hold on to with this body process so that maybe you can let yourself go into the body a little bit more. Every time I've tuned into my guides, my spiritual support, my energetic support, the message I get is you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
We want to all get to this like amazing healed state, or same thing around money. Like if I have money, then I'll be able to be happy, healthy, whatever. We have this like what I used to call horizon version. There was Horizon Emily, and she did all of these things and made all this money and was totally healed and everything was great. First off, that bitch does not exist and never will. That is not like that is not, if you've been holding yourself up to some sort of ideal outside of yourself or in the future, that person does not exist.
Yeah.
the best thing to do is to go in where you are, who you are right now, and make friends with that. Make friends with that person. Be kind to that person. The fastest way to get there is to slow down and to go at the body's pace.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody here has seen there's like a meme of a wolf pack in a line. And they put the oldest wolves in the front. They set the pace. So the slowest set the pace.
Mm.
Then they've got, like the strongest, hardest core warriors to protect the pack, then the rest of the pack. Then at the back, they have the leader watching everyone's back.
Yeah.
But they're setting the pace with their oldest and slowest members. So if we can, let's be like a wolf pack and let's set our pace with our slowest part, our bodies.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's the fastest way to go, because if you go at the mind's pace, you're going to leave a whole bunch of parts of you back there that you're going to have to at some point detour and go back and get.
Yep.
And if you go at that slow body's pace, oh my God, I truly believe that you can be avoiding and healing serious, physical ailments. And so, the only way out is through, and you cannot get yourself there by hating yourself or making yourself wrong or bad or being impatient with yourself. Notice how you relate to the parts that are coming up right now, because we're in this collective process right now where we're being given the opportunity for some serious integration.
Yep.
It can come in the form of a purge, of a test, of shit falling apart. But know that nothing is happening to you. It is happening for you. And if you can find the lesson, the growth, the thing that this universe that loves you so much is trying to teach you, trying to help you heal. And if you can be with that part, that's my biggest piece of advice, is to just be with it and relate to the parts of you that are coming up in a kinder way than maybe our parents did, our siblings did, our friends did.
Yeah.
Kindness and compassion and patience are the fastest way to get there.
Love it. Thank you so much. The Heartlight Sessions podcast is executive produced and hosted by me, Jenee Halstead. It's edited, mixed, and mastered by me too. And that theme song you hear, it's called Heartlight. And yep, you guessed it, it's from my record Disposable Love. Got questions about a certain healing modality or about heart-centered healing? Or maybe you just need some advice on life, love, or creativity? Send it my way. Email me at letters@heartlightpodcast.com. Until next time, I'm Jenee Halstead, and thanks for listening to Heartlight Sessions. Turning on my heart light, 1,000 volts of sunshine, rays are burning so bright.